Hello and welcome to episode 92 of my Wurm Unlimited tutorial series. This episode is going to be on making different colour dyes and painting some barrels with the different colours. To start with, there are 5 base colours that you can choose from: black, blue, green, red and white. To make dyes, you will need to use the natural substances skill. So you can see I've highlighted it here for you. That's a skill that you will be using when making dyes. The items required to make all the dyes are water, cochineal, copper lump, tanning and iron lump. To make tanning, you use 1 acorn with 1 kilogram of water, woad and zinc lump. That will get you the 5 base colours. The easiest dye to make is green, so that is the dye you should use to train your natural substances skill with, closely followed by the blue dye. To make the green dye, you will use a 1 kilogram lump of copper with 1 kilograms of water. Using larger amounts of water and copper produce larger amounts of dye. To make blue dye, you will use 1 woad with 1 kilogram of water, and blue dye is the next most difficult after green dye. To make white dye, you will use 1 kilogram of zinc lump with 1 kilogram of water, which will produce white dye. White is the next most difficult dye to make after blue dye. To make red dye, you will use 1 cochineal with 1 kilogram of water. Red dye is the next hardest to make. To make black dye, you will use 1 kilogram of water with 1 acorn, which produces 1 kilogram of tanning. Then you will use the 1 kilogram of tanning with a 1 kilogram lump of iron. That will create black dye. Larger amounts of tanning and iron produce larger amounts of dye. Black is the hardest dye colour to make. The more difficult colours cannot be made until after having made some of the easier colours or healing covers to gain natural substances skill. Start with green or maybe blue, but green is the easiest. Different colours can be mixed together to make other colours through the use of combining. Other colours can also be obtained by mixing cochineals, copper lumps or woad into an existing dye. When using more water or tanning than metal, the amount of metal determines the amount of dye produced. Sometimes a water ratio that's not exactly 1:1 will only use the same amount of water as metal and leave some water in the container. You will get the message that not all the dye would fit and the dye is lost. Therefore, it is advised to use an exact 1:1 ratio. To measure out exactly 1 kilogram of water, put 8 chestnuts into a pottery jar and then fill the jar with water. Doing so will give you exactly 1 kilogram of water. So let's show you that. All well and good me keep waffling in all my episodes, but if I'm not showing you as well, then I'm missing something important. Right, okay, first of all, let's drop this water into there. Okay, so here's a pottery jar, 8 chestnuts. Now if I activate the pottery jar, right click the water and go to fill, you'll see that we have exactly 1 kilogram of water, which is what we want. So we take the chestnuts out. Okay, we'll start with the easiest dye. So the easiest dye was, I'm asking you so you don't fall asleep. The easiest dye of course was green. So to do that we will need 1 copper lump. So up here I have some copper. So to make some green dye, we activate the copper lump, right click on the water, go to create dyes, green dye. Notice it's at 85% difficulty at 19.71 in natural substances. So then left click, you'll see the progression bar, you'll see you'll get some skill, and more importantly you'll have some dye. Notice the way to tell the colour of the dye is by looking at it. The word dye is the colour of the dye. So that could be red, blue, black, white. You get the message. Right, now with this dye, because I have made some already, you'll see in there, I shall put this dye with that dye. So you can see you can fill up barrels with your dyes. Okay, so that's that dye. The next dye is the blue dye. So what we'll do again, we'll put the chestnuts back in the pottery jar. We will then fill up the jar, giving us our 1 kilogram again. We take the chestnuts out. Now the next one, of course, is the blue dye. So I'm doing these in difficulty. So first it's easy green, then it's blue. To make the blue dye, we use the woad by activating it. Right click on the water, create dyes. Notice the difficulty is more difficult, but still doable. So left click, and there we are. We now have blue dye. Now I must be going colourblind because that looks like white or grey to me, but trust me, that's what the game tells us is blue, so we will put that in the next barrel down. So we have green, we have blue, although it definitely looks, I don't know, maybe I'm colourblind. Anyway, so carrying on. The next difficulty is the white dye. To make the white dye, we will need 1 zinc lump and 1 kilogram of water. So we'll fill the pottery jar again. Take the chestnuts out, activate the zinc, right click the water, create dyes, and you see white dye. And again, more difficult. Let's left click. And there we are, we have some white dye. We'll put that in the next barrel. Okay. The next dye we need to make is the red dye, which is more difficult than all the previous dyes we've made. So to make the red dye, we will get our water, and then to make the red dye we will activate a continual, right click the water, create dyes, red dye. Notice it's more difficult, but still doable. And there we are. See, now that looks red. So maybe I am colourblind for blue. I've just found that out at 49 years old. There we go, we live and learn every day. Learn something new every day. Okay, so you see we've got green, blue, white and red. Okay, so we now move to the last base colour, which is black, which is the most difficult to make. So the first thing we will do is need to make the tannin. To make the tannin, we first need 1 kilogram of water. So fill that up. Take the chestnuts out. We now need 1 acorn. We now activate the acorn and right click the water, create alchemy tanning, 49%. Yes, this is why black, one of the reasons black is difficult. There we go, we've now got tanning. Now to make the black dye, we will use 1 iron lump, 1 kilogram lump of iron. We will activate the 1 kilogram lump of iron, right click the tanning, create dyes, black dye. Notice how difficult that now is. Okay, I'm going to try, but possibly lots of failures. Cross your fingers for me. Yeah, you didn't cross them, did you? Never mind, let's try again. Okay, the tanning contains too little material. So, what can I do about that? I don't really want to pour it on the ground. We will put it in the last barrel. we will refill the pottery jar. And you've got to bear in mind, when you're recording, it's all well and good having written down notes, but when something suddenly occurs like that, where it's not been practiced or written down or made notes of, it becomes much more difficult. But I shall try, and my brain shall try and be flexible. Okay, so we're going to make some more tannin. It's all good because it's getting my skills up. We will now add that tannin to the one in the barrel. So there's 1.90. We will now reuse the iron lump, and you'll see that it will only use the amount of iron. So what I'll do is I will grab another iron lump out. I will combine them both. Oh, I can't combine them because they're not hot. Great. Never mind. So activate the 1 kilogram lump, right click the tannin, which you have to have in your pocket. So maximize that. I'm glad that occurred because it enabled me to show you that. Create black dyes. Let's try again. Again, it's very difficult. Probably going to fail. Yep, we failed. Okay, let's see if... Oh no, still got plenty, so let's just try again. Doesn't matter if I don't get a full 1 kilogram lump. Okay, so it's saying that, of course, we need exactly minimum of 1 kilogram. See, if this lumps would have been glowing, I could have combined them all. Never mind. Try again. Okay, you know what? I've shown you how to make black dye. It's not a cop-out. My iron lumps aren't hot enough, so what do you expect? What do you want from me? I've shown you how to make the black dye. That's good enough for the gamester. So we'll put that back in there. Right, so we have some dyes. How do you use your dye then? That's your next question that you're shouting at me because I woke you up a moment ago. Right, so let's grab the barrel with the green dye. The method to painting an item is put appropriate item into your inventory, or sorry, activate the dye. So obviously put it in your inventory, activate the dye, right click on whatever item it is you want to. If it was closer, I imagine that would be working. Let's try this. And do you see you get the option to paint? Well, this is going to be my green barrel, so I will click paint. Here's the progression bar. Now, if I drop this on the ground and step back, you see it's got a green hue. That's now a green barrel. And that's how you paint items in the world. Now, this is part 1 of dyeing. I couldn't do a dyeing episode without showing you the different colours of the lamps. So that will be part 2. Okay, continuing on, because I don't want to make this episode too long and bore you all. Okay. Right, here's some things to mention. Since combining dye results in small loss of quality, it is advised to create dye from one larger piece of metal instead of many 1 kilogram pieces. So in other words, don't do like the gamester's done in this tutorial episode. Combine all of your lumps together before you start to make your dye, because then you won't have to worry about the problem that just occurred to me. So it's self-explanatory. Join them all together into a big lump, then start trying to make your black dye or any dye colour. If it uses zinc or copper or iron, combine the lumps into a big lump before you start. Okay, paintable items include building walls, fences, chests, barrels, buckets, signs, carts, catapults, pottery, lanterns, statues and boats. Going back to the catapults, that's going to be a good episode, and that'll be one that I'll do soon. The amount of dye used depends on the item being painted. If you go to Wurmpedia and the page under dyes, it tells you what items and how much paint is needed for each item, so I do recommend having a look at that. Okay, so we know how to make dye, we know how to paint items. Let's just finish with some of the notes from the wonderful Wurmpedia. The dye colour shows up as the colour of the word dye. So as you can see here, with the different dyes, it shows you the colours. What did I do with that other barrel? I've lost my green dye already. I've only just made it. See, that's something that's so easy to happen when... Did I pick it up? I did, I'm sure I did. Which means it should be in my pocket. Oh, I'm losing the plot. Right, okay, time to move on. Okay, so you know about the dye colours. Resulting dye will have 3 colour values: red, green and blue. Dye may be combined and the values will average out, although they will be about 2 points closer to grey across the board. The higher the quality is of the dye, the brighter and less grey the colour will be. Dye's red, green, blue values can be changed using the base material. Higher quality base material heightens red, green, blue values. To change the red value, use a conchinelle. To change the green value, use a copper lump. To change the blue value, use woad. Cannot improve all values with zinc lump, white. One colour to not use on your lamps, I'll mention it now, I will mention this again in part 2, is black. Why? Because it will dim the light colour and make it more grey. The amount of water used does not seem to affect creation chance or the resulting quality level or red, green, blue value. Using pottery jar with 8 hazelnuts will leave room for only 1 kilogram of water. That you already know. Dye and water cannot be mixed to make a paler dye. When making dye with metal lumps, there is no need to heat them up first. Well, you must have observed that. The quality of the conchinelle does not affect the success chance when creating red dye. If failing to make green dye, the mass of the copper lump is decreased by 0.1. If failing to make red dye, the quality of the conchinelle is reduced by 0.5. Quality of water is reduced by 0.1. If failing to make blue, the woad is reduced in quality by 0.5. If failing to make black dye, the weight of the iron lump is decreased by 0.1 and the volume of tanning is decreased by 0.1, as you see in my farcical trying to show you how to make black dye. To get rid of unwanted dye, just right click on the container and select pour on ground. So what that's talking about, just to quickly show you, right click if it's in your pocket, that is. So let's just, oh, there's the dye, found it. Right, pull it in your pocket, open it up, right click, pour on ground. And no, I'm not going to, because I want to use the green dye. I'm going to paint my face with it later. Right, okay, so moving on. Black dye has little effect on a light source, no black light, and only dims the light a little, and it doesn't dim light sources around it. Okay, so I mentioned that a moment ago actually. Testing reveals an excellent black dye of red equals 12, blue equals 12 and green equals 13. On a 45 quality level lantern, light does the same as a 40 quality level no dye lantern, and a little dimmer than a 40. Oh, why on earth would you want to go there and do all of that? Would you wake up one morning and think, I'm going to make a lantern less brighter than a normal lantern? Why? Stop for a moment, pause and ask yourself, why would you do that? Okay, so moving on. A 2.5 quality level rare copper lump produces a 3.5 quality level dye. Okay, so there we are. That will do for part 1 of episode 92 on dyes. Of course we could go painting this cart, which, who knows, maybe we'll do it in part 2. We will see. Wherever you are in the world, God bless you and keep every last one of you safe. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed this episode on dies. Goodbye.